Hi, Education Advocates. It's me, Paul Diego Holzer, the Executive Director of Achieve Hartford again. Happy to be with you. Just a quick note to bring you up to speed on a conversation that's happening really all around us. It's a conversation I think that's really happening right at the intersection of education and economic development. So I wanted to highlight it here for all of you out there. The conversation basically is either focusing on guided career pathways, which we've mentioned briefly, but we'll get into in this post, and something called dual track learning. And these conversations are happening all around us, meaning at the state legislature, through the community economic development planning that happens every decade, that's county focused. And for us here in Hartford County, Capital Region Council of Governments is being helpful with that conversation. It's also happening at the CSCU level, so the highest levels of state university, college university system. Governor-elect transition team is starting to talk about it at all the WIBs, the Workforce Investment Boards. So for us, that's CWP. And even the Metro Hartford Alliance, when they highlighted advanced manufacturing recently, talked about the dual track learning that is happening in Germany as something that can maybe even be replicated here. So it's becoming a much bigger and hotter topic. You know, JP Morgan Chase nationally is putting a lot of money behind this idea of dual track learning. And so let me just define what these two things are for you. Dual track, we'll start there. You know, this is a look at kind of industry-specific tracking from kind of traditional K-12 into higher ed right into industry. The focus is on in-demand middle school jobs. So middle school meaning you don't need a 4-year degree, but you do need more than a high school diploma. You know, so for us locally, right, think healthcare, IT, advanced manufacturing, those kinds of industries. Dual track, you know, very employer-driven as it relates to curriculum design, career guidance, you know, work-based learning experiences. You know, the main gist of it is that, you know, how do you create learning opportunities for more students that's kind of half time in the classroom and then half time in an internship or work-based learning experience, you know, whether you call it internship, apprenticeship, whatever. And how do you even think about making some of that work paid for students? So really, you know, giving students who want a more structured pathway to a job, a well-paying job, an in-demand job, how do you start creating those pathways right within K-12? And I think that the idea here is that these dual tracks really need to be tracks that end up in full-time employment for students post-high school, with high school going right into some level of post-secondary degree completion that sets them up for that full-time job. So that's dual track learning. Related to that is something called guided career pathways. And if you remember, we talked about what Denver's Education Attainment Network, kind of like our All-In network here, coalition here, they launched something called Denver Direct Pathways. And I think we flashed this graphic, you know, which talked about, you know, 4 different universities that were agreeing to create much clearer tracks to certificate completion, to 2-degree completion, to 4-year completion, and then to post-college employment, really being responsive to the local labor market needs and economic development needs that Denver, Colorado is experiencing. Guided career pathways are actually something that our Connecticut State College University system is already moving on. You know, not many states have made a lot of headway. Connecticut's actually being pretty progressive on this. So I think it bears mentioning that CSCU has looked at what Tennessee has done. So Tennessee looked at 13 community colleges and said, well, what if we implemented guided career pathways? Meaning, you know, what if we created tracks, identified supports to give to students to keep them on those tracks, to bridge them through those tracks, so from high school into a certificate program, into a 2-year degree, and then even into a 4-year degree. How do we kind of structure the curriculum to have clear mileposts, clear outcomes, and make sure that those outcomes are competency-driven, meaning, you know, what employers really need them to be. Guided career pathways, you know, the writing is, think of it as a movement, not a program. So it's a way to take what you already offer but to change how it's structured so that you can get much higher results for students in the system, and ideally for the most needy students. And so what happened in Tennessee, 13 community colleges came together, an increase in freshman passing rates by 10% in a 3-year period. College level math more than quadrupled among students in those systems. The college level English doubled for passing rates in those 13 colleges. 42% increase in graduation, in 3-year graduation in those 13 institutions on average. And that 42% meant an 88% increase in graduation in 3 years among minority students. So, this is fast becoming a strong kind of equity play as we think about needing to close the opportunity gap and ensure that students in our K-12 systems and then in our higher ed systems are actually getting prepared access, support to land a career and ideally end the cycle of poverty in that one generation. So I'm just putting it on your radar. Wanted to go deeper into it. What we'll do at Achieve Harvard is we'll talk to the All In Coalition, see about throwing some resources, national resources that can be downloaded on both dual track learning and guided career pathways, and look to the All In Coalition website in a few weeks and see what's up there if you want to learn more. Just a quick note, thanks so much for listening.